Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Friday, the 10th day of January, 2025. And in the news, we're going to begin with the latest on the fire situation here in Southern California. We're not going to dwell on it because that's not what this program is all about, but we will talk about it. There are some important stories going in the news. Iran has ordered a mass evacuation near its nuclear reactor. The U.S. or the Biden administration sees no reason why the Israeli Defense Force should remain in Lebanon, as Israel reportedly wastes staying there for years in some areas. The leader of Turkey, Erdogan, his aspiration is an empire, which we've talked about before. There's an interesting story about that. And then ramping up criticism of Israel, the Pope calls the situation in Gaza shameful. Of course, blaming Israel, not Hamas, the murderous terrorists there. Alan Dershowitz, the retired Harvard law professor, basically said Pope Francis is violating Catholic teaching by bearing false witness against Israel. And speaking of anti-Semites, we had the funeral yesterday of the totally incompetent ex-president Jimmy Carter, who died at age 100. This is in Washington, D.C., attended by all former presidents. We're not going to get into it, but his contribution to the rise of Iran and the spread of anti-Semitism, that's a subject for another day. But he was an absolutely horrible president. I know you're not supposed to speak evil of the dead, but his legacy is just horrific. We talk about that on another day. Okay, now to the headlines. Headline number one, some UK Daily Mail. I like the way they put it. LA's perfect firestorm. How a tiny spark in a backyard turned into the city's worst ever fire in hours and incinerated 20 square miles of mansions, and it's still out of control. Now, this is from yesterday. And again, the figures are worse than it has been. But the latest figures now, we've got over 10,000 houses and structures have burned to the ground so far. And much of this is some of the most expensive real estate in the entire United States. It's not over yet. The death toll is now 10. 10 people have been found in the rubble or found in the areas where the houses have been burned, destroyed. There's a great app, if you're interested in this, called Watch Duty. It's free. Watch Duty. It shows all the fires in Southern California, gives the latest updated information. If you live in Southern Cal, you ought to have the app. Our whole family does, because it tells you if something breaks out. And so today we still have a red flag warning. That means there's severe fire danger. More moderate to strong winds are coming. Low humidity, 55-mile-an-hour winds in the valleys, up to 65 miles an hour. There's going to be a slight lull this weekend, but it's going to pick up heavy again on Sunday. More strong winds. And so they're called Santa Ana winds because they're warm winds that come from the desert. They come from the desert and they go west towards the coast. The eastern winds from the ocean are the cool ones. And we unfortunately haven't had those. We've had the warm winds come in, and this is why we have the mess that we're in. We'll talk about this in a minute. Now, here's the Daily Mail story, and I want to get into it. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I could spend all day, literally all day, talking about the stories here. Perfect storm of overgrown vegetation, dry conditions, and uncharacteristic winds are responsible for whipping up the most devastating wildfire Los Angeles has ever seen, with more than 20 square miles razed to the ground in less than 48 hours. The prospect, and this is really interesting, of such an infernal firestorm was raised by podcaster and comedian Joe Rogan last summer when he recounted a chilling conversation that he had with an LA firefighter. Speaking to a guest and fellow comedian Sam Morril in the July 2024 episode, Rogan recounted, he said, one day it's just going to be the right wind and fire is going to start in the right place and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean. And there's not a blanking thing we can do about it. If the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn through LA. Okay, this firefighter's prediction, as told by Rogan, appears to have been proven true with environmental conditions and unfavorable winds whipping up the wildfire into an uncontrollable state. And we can add the totally incompetent leadership in California at the state level of Gavin Newsom and the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, who just cut off a month ago some 20 million off the fire department's budget last month. One fire yesterday that quickly expanded, called the Kenneth Fire, was due to arson. They arrested a homeless man that they found in the act of doing this. So this is an ongoing nightmare, what we have here. We talked a little bit about it yesterday when I came on to explain why I didn't do the broadcast first thing in the morning. We I'll say it again because it's very frightening what's going on here because these hot spots are just coming up. It was Wednesday night, and yeah, Wednesday. I'm trying to keep the days straight. And what had happened was we're watching a news conference, and all of a sudden, breaking news takes place, and there is a fire that just literally exploded in the Hollywood Hills. Literally exploded, and it was just moving at a tremendously fast rate. Well, as I mentioned yesterday, my daughter lives about 13 miles, my oldest daughter, from the Palisades fire, and about the same distance from the Eaton fire there in uh, Altadena and Pasadena. And she had talked to me about what do I do, Dad, about leaving? I said, if it gets close to you, well, when this Hollywood fire, Sunset Fire broke out, it's only 2.5, 3 miles from where she lived. And so I got a hold of her and said, get out of there now. And she got out. There's, big traffic jam. She's one of the first to get out and came here with her roommate and their dog. And so we spent a few hours getting the house fixed up for her because we weren't expecting that. And we don't have a very big house. But bottom line was my room here where I do my broadcast. My studio was where Gabby and the dog slept uh, the on Wednesday nights. So they were there, and we had to take care of a whole bunch of things. We were tired, wiped out. We You had the smoke coming in, so it was one of those things. I just couldn't get to the broadcast till later in the morning. I can't remember what time it was, but anyway, it's been very harrowing. Again, we're not out of the woods yet. Like I said, there's going to be um, uh, the lull of the action supposedly the next day or so, but Sunday the winds are going to pick up again. And the problem is, and here's the problem simply stated. Usually at this time of year, we have 3.3 inches of rain from December to this time in January. This is our rainy season, supposedly in Southern. 3.3 inches of rain. Right now, we've had zero point 0.2 inches of rain during this time. So we've got parched ground, we've got a drought. When we had 12 inches of rain just last February, of course, the wise leadership here in Southern Cal and state of California did not catch the rain. Literally, trillions of gallons went into the ocean that could have been caught in reservoirs of that. And there's a whole other story why that didn't happen, but it's totally incompetent leadership here. So Gavin Newsom sunk any chances he has for being president, running for president in 2028 with this non-leadership here. Everybody's calling for his resignation. Karen Bass, the mayor of LA. It's just a real mess. So anyway, we're like I said, we're not out of the woods yet, but the problem is when we had this fire yesterday called the Kenneth Fire, and it spread tremendously rapidly. It's a little bit away from the Palisades fire. And we think, well, how did this fire start? We found out it was arson, and it just burnt so fast. There's 1,000 acres that were burning, in no time. Fortunately, our first responders, God bless them, the air crews were up there. They took care of it, and this fire is now pretty much out. And there was, tons of houses, tons of people evacuated. Something like 130,000 people are evacuated. You've got 10,000 structures, houses, and businesses, destroyed. And where do people go? I mean, it's just such a mess here, and it's not over yet. So this is the latest in the situation. So anyway, that's where we're at. But Lord willing, we'll be back here every day doing breaking news again because there's a lot of stories going on. But yesterday was one of those, literally the perfect storm of everything taking place, which led us not to be able to basically do it. It was quite the day. Anyway, let's go to the next headline. This is fascinating. Iran orders a mass evacuation near its nuclear reactor. This from the Israel website Hayom. The spokesman for the Bushehr region announced that all facility personnel and civilian residents in reactor zone, particularly emphasizing foreign nationals, must evacuate the designated area immediately within a 3.1 mile radius. They're keeping everybody out of that. This is their most sensitive nuclear installation. Well, the bottom line is they're afraid of two things. First of all, sabotage from forces within the country, as well as an attack from the Israel and the United States as soon as Donald Trump takes office. Now, this has huge implications for last days Bible prophecy, as we've been talking about. The situation where Iran with its surrogates has to be a secondary military power in the Middle East, with Russia being the main one. We document this on our website, Educating Our World. In our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end, particularly signs 9 through 11, and Appendix 4, Would a regional war between Israel and Iran fulfill Bible prophecy? And the answer is absolutely not. It's a free download from our website. Again, Educating a World under the heading of Bible Prophecy. We have 12 books on the subject. Everything is free. The videos, in fact, we've hit 800 videos now we have on the site, and you can download any of them or all of them for free. The material from 65 books we have on 11 different biblical subjects, it's all there free. Please take advantage of them because the prophecy one in particular explains in detail what's going on. So Iran is getting prepared one way or another for the destruction of its nuclear facilities, either through, and there's two possibilities, through internal sabotage there. There are forces in Iran that are anti-government, anti the totalitarian government there that would like to destroy the nuclear facilities. And of course, Israel and the United States have a vested interest in all of this. So we'll keep an eye on this because this Iran has to go down in power. As we said, Russia must increase, Iran must decrease. Now, to show, I said I wouldn't do any more Joe Biden stories, but I can't help this. When U.S. sees no reason that the IDF should remain in Lebanon, as Israel reportedly weighs staying for years in some areas. The Biden administration warns Israel against reputation that it doesn't live up to commitments. All right, I don't even know where to start here. Israel's in southern Lebanon, as we've seen that. What was the number? Something like 18,000 separate in southern Lebanon armaments they've found, missiles, rockets, mortars, whatever, all sorts of material to destroy Israel that Hezbollah had there in the tunnels. They're not done any by any stretch of the imagination yet. And the Lebanese army now, according to this agreement, was supposed to take over and make sure Hezbollah didn't come back. And they're doing absolutely nothing there. And we figured that. So Israel has to do it all on their own. And there's 60 days ceasefire, and the 60 days is going to be up soon. And so the United States is saying, this is the Biden administration, please. The Israeli army continue to hold most of its positions in southern Lebanon, with reports suggesting that the government is considering extending its presence. And the sources in the cabinet said the Israeli army may not withdraw for many years in some places. Now, under the ceasefire, the IDF must have a complete withdrawal from southern Lebanon at the end of the 60 days, while the Lebanese armed forces must assume control of the vacated positions and deploy throughout the area. And Hezbollah is supposed to withdraw north of the Litani River, 18 miles from the border. None of that has happened. None of that's happening. But again, Biden's envoys, there's no reason for Israel to extend its stay in Lebanon. Yeah, really. That's what happened the last time. And so this is the sickening position we've seen in the United States since October 7th of last year when the Hamas massacre took place. Also, too, I just read a story on a week or two from Caroline Glick that she just found this out. And one of the reasons, this is horrible. Something like 1,200, 13, 1,400 Israelis were murdered that day. One of the reasons they had a hard time identifying the bodies is as many as one third of the people that were murdered that day, one third were beheaded. That's why they had trouble, identifying the bodies. And I said she just found out about it the other day. So this is who these animals are. But again, it's all the world emphasis is on Israel. Israel's the bad guy in all this, trying to defend themselves. But this illustrates, like we said, the sad situation. Side number 11 of our 25 signs: no superpower will intervene on Israel's behalf when they're invaded. According to Ezekiel 38:39, something's going to happen in the United States. We've been destroying ourselves for the last number of years. The Biden administration did a great job. They've done a great job in with their surrogates here in California. Again, I've got to stop myself from getting into that because it's thing after thing he's been doing the last couple of weeks of his presidency to continue to destroy the country and make it hard for Donald Trump to get America back on track. Okay. Headline number 4, and this is another big one with respect to last day's Bible prophecy, something we've talked about for years. Erdogan's aspiration is an empire. This is from Israel Hayom, the website. In Iraq and Syria, against Cyprus and Greece, and regions far beyond, Turkey's aggressive foreign policy has created multiple fronts. For this purpose, President Erdogan has spent 3 decades building a formidable arms industry that produces drones, warships, and even an aircraft carrier and advanced fighter jets. Erdogan sees himself as the Muslim leader of the world. He sees himself the one who's going to be kind of like the savior there. So he spent the 3 decades in power building up the military of Turkey. And remember, Turkey's a member of NATO. They were best friends of Israel for years and years. They were, were have been a great for. We've got a military base there actually in Turkey with some very dicey weapons there. But anyway, Erdogan is again. He's met with Putin, met with the Ayatollah there a number of times in the last few years militarily, and they will be part of the group that attacks Israel. The 38, 39, a Russian of Ezekiel, Russian-led invasion with Turkey in the forefront. Turkey's mentioned a couple times with the ancient names Gomer and Beth Togarmah. Those are two uh, locations that are in modern day Turkey. So it's going to be part and parcel of this last days scenario. So when we see this story about Turkey's aspirations, and we had a story the other day, if you recall, about building up. You've got a battle now in Syria with the vacuum there between the U.S., between Turkey and Israel, who's going to take charge and take control. And Turkey, of course, is trying to be, again, the big cheese in the area, as it were. So we'll keep that one in mind. But again, this headline just illustrates Bible prophecy. Turkey, again, several decades ago, was Israel's best friend in the Middle East. The Israelis took their vacations there. Israel and Iran were their two best friends. And all that changed because, as the scripture predicts, it'll be Iran, Turkey, along with Russia that invades in the last days. But as we've talked about before, when we were mentioning this in Bible prophecy talks in the 1970s, people thought we were crazy because what do you mean Iran is going to be against Israel? What do you mean Turkey is going to be against Israel? Iran's Israel's best friend. They've resupplied them in the Yom Kippur War. Turkey is the place where the Israelis take their vacations. They love it there. Turkey's very pro-Western. They're a member of NATO. This can't be true. Well, just wait long enough and the Bible will prove itself to be true, as we see. Now, finally, last story, headline number 4, ramping up criticism of Israel. The Pope calls the situation in Gaza shameful. This is from the Virtual Jerusalem website, and it fulfills 3 of our 25 signs. Where the organized church, sign 19, will turn away from the faith, apostasy. There'll be a rise in false prophets, false teachers, and false Christs. And there'll be a rise in anti-Semitism. The whole world will be against Israel. That's signs 19 through 21. In fact, there's a story we refer to from Alan Dershowitz from Gatestone Institute. Pope Francis violates Catholic teaching by bearing false witness against Israel, and he certainly does. There's another story about Pope Francis about he's talking about how the world needs to allow migrants to come in, and he was, excoriating these nations that actually don't let everybody in their border. And the problem is, Pope, what he doesn't seem to get, we don't have any problem with migrants coming in if they come here legally. The problem is the ones that come in illegally, and we've talked about at least 1,200, as many maybe as 2,800 Iranian and other terrorists who have murdered people have come across our border in the last 4 years in the Biden administration. We know they're here, and we don't know what all they're up to because they're individual cells. We've talked about this, so it's a real mess. But the bottom line is that the organized church is supposed to be teaching the Bible, speaking out against evil in the world, and supporting Israel. Supporting Israel, they should be, because Israel is part of God's timepiece in the last days, and yet we have crickets for most of the organized church, and we don't see very many sites or very many people speaking with authority. And the authority is not us. The authority is Scripture, what it says. And that's what we do here on Breaking News. We only do stories that have something to do with last days Bible prophecy. So you will understand what's going on, how it fits, how it amazingly fits with what is taking place right now in the world. All right, that's the latest. Thank you for your prayers. I had, people contact me from all over the world, literally, not only U.S., want to know how we're doing. My good friend Simon Chang's in Guam. He invited my family to go out and live in Guam, stay with them. There's some great pictures. He's on the beach right there. It's very tempting. I don't think we can get all our cats over to Guam, though, Simon, but I appreciate the offer. And so anyway, we're here. We're be doing the latest. If something major comes up again, now we're back set. I'm back up my office here in my studio so we can do an updated story if necessary. But please pray for Southern California. This is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Over 10,000 structures have been destroyed. 130,000 people at least have been evacuated from their homes or had to leave. Where do all these people go? It's what a mess. And so and the problem is, it's just the incompetence of the leadership here in California, from the governor to the mayor of Los Angeles and others. Anyway, we'll get into that. Don't get me going on that, but this is where we're at. But anyway, Lord's in control, and we're not. We're looking forward to helping people out here, and so please pray for the relief efforts that are going on. so we can move on from this. All right, I'm Don Stewart. Thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.